Hello, Facebook world. Welcome. Hello, Melanie Phillips.
Hello, Abby again.
It is always wonderful hearing what you have to say. It seems like the world is going so much quicker all of a sudden.
Mr. Trump is the gift that keeps on giving to the journalistic profession, I have to say. And that's largely because everything he says, like he might say, you know, today is Sunday.
Right.
Everybody goes,
no!
Oh my God, he said today is Sunday. And immediately it's like a viral news story and major outrage. You know, I think much of the story is actually the reaction to him, which I think is quite pathological, actually. Both in the way in which he's being distorted and what he is saying is being misreported, and he's being condemned on the misreporting. And then he objects to the misreporting, and then he's condemned for the way he reacts.
Right. Unbelievable.
You know, I think that's as much of a story from the point of view of any reasonable standard of journalism as what he's actually saying in the sort of policy changes that he's making, which are very substantial.
So what's your insight then into the world of journalism? You're from this world. You know these people. I mean, you mentioned pathological. What is going on?
Well, I do know these people, but I'm always at a loss to decide whether they know what they're doing is wrong or whether they don't know what they're doing is wrong. I'm not quite sure which is the most frightening. I think the most frightening is that they don't understand that they are distorting in the way that they are.
They don't understand
and
it.
I think that is actually quite a reasonable proposition. I mean, I wrote on my website something which struck me with great force. Just one example. The Washington Post sent out a story, and I got the story, and I read it with great alarm. The story was that Donald Trump had given his first televised interview to, I think, ABC TV. And on the basis of this interview, the story said it's quite clear that Mr. Trump is completely obsessed by his popularity. He dragged the conversation back over and over again to the size of the crowd and the size of the ovation he got at the CIA. And you read this story and you think, my goodness, somebody with some sort of narcissistic personality disorder is now in the White House. And then you go to the transcript of that interview, published also by the Washington Post. It's a completely different picture.
Wow.
Far from the interview being all about him, most of it was all about his policy, in which the interviewer quite rightly challenged him on his policies, which are controversial. And then it was the interviewer who brought up this business of crowd size, saying, don't you think that, you know, it's time to let it go? To which Mr. Trump, quite obviously, he's thin-skinned, and he said, but lies have been told.
Right.
And the interviewer then said, but, you know, isn't it time to let it go? And he said, Mr. Trump said, but you're the person who brought it up. I'm simply responding to you. And this got translated in the Washington Post story as if just to say that Trump himself...
The selective process of only hearing of what you want to hear.
In the journalist's mind. And again, you know, I was listening to the BBC. I mean, you know, I'm British. I listen to the BBC.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were British.
There's possibly a slight hint of my accent. So there's a flagship radio show called the Today Programme, which goes out at breakfast time, and it kind of sets the agenda for the day. So I was listening with amazement. I mean, I know about the groupthink at the BBC. I know about its sort of left-wing bias and the way that it thinks that its left-wing bias is actually centrist and objective. I know all that, but I'm always shocked when I hear it in action, and I was quite shocked. And we're entirely how the... Entire projection. And then I read that at the first Trump press conference, the media conference, media briefing, a question with Mrs. May, with the British Prime Minister, a question was asked by the BBC correspondent, Laura Kuenssberg, political editor, or whatever she is. And she said, you know, President Trump, do you accept that the British are appalled? And then she listed this list of crimes. And you have to, I come to the conclusion that for these journalists, That's really how they think. They process what they're reading through a prism of hatred of Donald Trump, and not just hatred of him, but indescribable rage and fury that the agenda is not their agenda, and that cannot be allowed to happen. So they kind of process all that so that what they're reading and what they're seeing is itself distorted in their own minds. It's not they're sitting down thinking, he said that, well, I'm going to make it look really bad. They think it's really bad.
And what you're saying is so scary because basically these journalists are not able to... So wait a second. This is what I want to ask you. What was the title of that article that you wrote on your website dealing with this issue?
I think it was something like the media war against Donald Trump.
The media war against Donald Trump. All right, so that's a very important issue. All right, so the media war against Donald Trump on MelaniePhillips.com. All right, so now let's go to the next Trump issue, which is right happening in front of us. This whole, what's being termed as the Muslim ban. His latest executive order that he just brought up. First of all, there is what the actual executive order is. That's issue number one. Issue number two is, again, the whole media storm about it.
Well, it happens that it's the disadvantage of any Muslim is considered to be Islamophobic and an attack on the entire Muslim world. It's ridiculous in general, and it's ridiculous in this particular. This is not a Muslim ban. Most Muslims in the world can continue to come to the United States in the way that they've always been able to come. What's happened is that 7 countries, which are considered by the US government to be particularly dangerous in the sense that they are dominated by Islamic State or other jihadi groups, that anyone from those countries must be presumed to be a danger until proved otherwise. So it's not a ban on Muslims, it's a ban on people who are coming from countries which are considered to pose intrinsically a danger to the security of America. Secondly, it's not a ban in the sense of being banned forever. It's a delay, or whatever it is, 90 days, 120
days.
During which consider what needs to be proved, whether in general or in particular, I'm not quite sure. But after which people can theoretically, come to America if they are deemed to be not a danger to the security of the state. And the second thing that is sort of emerged from work done by certain journalists is that this list of countries was not dreamed up by the Trump administration. It's actually a list of countries which was drawn up by the Obama administration as countries which intrinsically pose a danger to America,
right.
And on the basis of which the visa waiver was removed from these countries. So what Mr. Trump has done is extend this to a temporary ban on immigration. So he's gone further, obviously, than the Obama administration did. But the singling out of these countries, which Donald Trump is being blamed for, and it's being said that this is an example of his Islamophobic approach. That list of countries was drawn up by President Obama,
right,
against whom not one word was ever written or said that possibly he might be biased or Islamophobic. Clearly ridiculous, because it was clearly, quite apart from the character of President Obama himself, it was clearly a measure designed to address a particular problem from particular countries, specifically about the security of America.
Right.
Nothing to do with being Muslim. The fact that the terrorist threat is an Islamic threat is as it is.
Right.
But one can't say that without being deemed to be Islamic.
So this is, a few years ago, it was Obama who did this and the press was mum, and today they're all blaming Trump, and and the mass media are not bringing up the fact that there was Obama's list initially.
How it goes is that anything that Donald Trump does is bad,
right,
and consequently that makes Donald Trump bad. When he does these bad things, it reinforces the fact that he's bad. So it's a completely circular argument. In other words, he cannot do anything that's good,
right,
or neutral. at all. And this is crazy.
Right.
And you see, one also has to think about, the effect on the general public of all this. I mean, journalists, it seems to me, they are continuing to dig their own professional grave here. Because the public,
that's a good line.
In electing Donald Trump, the public basically said to the massed ranks of the world's media, the American media in particular, obviously, but more generally the Western media, you've been telling us 4 months, this man is unconscionably awful, dreadful, he has no redeeming features, he is a menace to everybody, and you know what? We think that what you've said is rubbish and we're going to ignore it. So that's where we start from. Now, how we misjudged, not a moment's doubt has occurred to them. Instead, they're doubling down. So they're doubling down on the attacks on Trump, with even more venom than before, and even more desperation because now he's actually in the White House.
Right.
And what do they think the effect on the public's going to be? The public's going to say, "Oh, I read this piece in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Guardian, and you know what? This Trump is really a bad guy." Or are they going to say, "Oh, look at what they've said. This is even more reason why we voted for him."
Right.
No brainer to me.
Right. And obviously it's going to be depends who's going to be the person reading that. One person going to one direction, one person going to the other
Absolutely.
direction.
The people who started out by hating Trump are going to be, reading that and being reinforced in their hatred.
Right.
And the people who voted for him are going to be reinforced in why they voted for him. But I think there's another set of quite fair-minded people, possibly who didn't vote for him, who are going to be thinking, hang on, this doesn't quite fit here. Because there comes a point where, reality does actually start to intrude for anyone who's not got a completely groupthink kind of mentality. And there are such people who, are kind of in the middle of the road, they're not quite sure. But anyway, I just think the media are on a hiding to nothing here.
Well, and again, for anyone who has not yet read Melanie's article, The Media War on Trump, great article bringing up this issue. So I want to jump to something else now. Forgive me for taking advantage that you do have a British perspective on things. Prime Minister Theresa May was just in Washington.
She was indeed.
Meeting for meeting President
Her
Trump.
new best friend. Her new best friend.
I don't know whether you're being serious or facetious there. But what insight do you have on how that went?
Well, I think it went tremendously well. It's a cause of some interest and even amusement that you have someone like Theresa May, who is very prim and very buttoned up and very private and very quiet and discreet, and she's a provincial conservative and she's very cautious and she would never say anything to upset anybody. And here she is with her new best friend who is like the complete opposite. So how did this come about? I think only a woman could have done this. And only a woman like her could have done this. Because I guess someone like Donald Trump, I don't know him. I'm just looking at him from the outside like we all are. But first of all, there is a female effect anyway, of a certain type of woman. Mrs. Thatcher used to do this with her cabinet. These were all sort of rough, tough men, relatively speaking, who were went to jelly in front of her. Why? Because she reminded them of Nanny. She reminded them of the headmistress. She reminded them of their mothers. In other words, they were a bit sort of frightened of her. Uh-huh. So when she sort of wagged her finger at them, they said, "My knees turned to jelly."
Wow.
He's a grown man of 56. What sort of pathetic person is this? That was the effect she had, and she used it. And she used to cry. Mrs. Thatcher used to cry because she knew that then they couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Wow.
So now Theresa May is not Mrs. Thatcher. She's a different kind of character. But there's a certain type of man who is, he kind of suspends judgment with a powerful woman. That impresses. And then, if you're Mr. Trump, I guess, she speaks the Queen's English beautifully. And for a certain type of American, someone who speaks the Queen's English impresses. And then, she's a very powerful woman, but she's very restrained and she's very dignified. And she wouldn't have had to do very much, I think, to really charm him, because all she had to do all she had to do, I guess, with a man like that, with his apparent vulnerabilities, his tremendously thin skin, is to basically treat him with a great deal of respect and to listen courteously and to agree with him on certain issues, and where she disagrees, to do it in a very courteous and respectful fashion. She's got him. Because he's not used to that.
Right.
And he admires that. And so, you know, she's somebody, it's a bit like meeting the Queen, as he...
He's just in awe. It's like this awe effect.
Yes, yes. And some people would make fun of that. And I suppose it is a bit comical in a way. But actually, it's not a bad thing at all. Because she does deserve that kind of respect.
Right.
And if she can manage this man so that she gets the best out of him, what's not to like?
Right.
So I think she pulled off a tremendous feat here.
But what was accomplished?
Elementary
What was that
psychology.
feat?
She's established a relationship with America. From Britain's point of view, I mean, we don't know whether a trade deal will be done, but she's placed Britain certainly in the best possible position to get an advantageous trade deal. She's established a line of warm and friendly contact with the most powerful man, the most powerful leader in the Western world. And she got out of him in public that he backs NATO. And that was very important. I mean, I was reading everything he was saying about NATO, and I didn't ever think that he was against NATO. What he was against was people being free riders off America in NATO. And I thought that was quite reasonable. And he also seemed to think that NATO was kind of an old institution that needed to get with the times. And I thought also that was a very fair point. People got very alarmed that he was going to back away from the NATO alliance. People are very alarmed.
Because it falls apart if America pulls out.
For sure, but people are very alarmed. He's supposed to be isolationist. He's supposed to be protectionist. People are very concerned that America will not play its role, the role it should play in the world. And so to get him to say, you know, you support NATO 100%, don't you? And he said yes. That is very important.
Got it.
So that was a very significant thing. And she also delivered the speech she made the day before, whatever it was, to the Republicans in Philadelphia. That was a tremendous speech. That really was. It was a speech of a world leader. And it was a speech of great optimism. And you see, what she has said is what I'm sure Donald Trump believes. Britain and America, and I believe this, Britain and America between them can now bring about a Western spring.
Oh, nice. She used those words or you using those words?
I used those words.
Wow, that's your next article.
I want to write a book saying this.
Wow.
I want to write a book saying this.
Wow. Okay, that's it.
I'm not saying it will happen.
Right.
Because much can go wrong.
Right.
Much can go wrong. But, you know, here you have Britain, which was so demoralised and denied its own national identity and its power of democracy, self-government. Now, through Brexit, it wants that back. Brackets, that's another story, whether that's going to be easy or difficult, but that's what they want. And here you have, in America, President Trump being elected on a platform which says, I'm going to make America great again. I'm going to restore American pride, American patriotism. But obviously the context and the circumstances are very different. You've basically got two leaders in the Western world who are singing from the same hymn sheet. And you know, you America, which is undisputably the leader of the Western world in terms of power. You have Britain, which I think is the cultural leader of the Western world, because Britain is the mothership, the cultural mothership of America and the West. And then you've got Europe, which is a basket case. So you have the potential for America and Britain together to kind of recreate the West, recreate Western national identity in the most positive way of being American, of being British, and of Western values. That's the upside. There's a downside in that it may not happen, it may all fall apart, everything may go to pieces in America, everything may go to pieces in Britain. I haven't got a crystal ball.
Right.
But with these two leaders now, And having made this relationship, and that speech that she made is worth reading. That speech.
Okay.
Don't rely on the media.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go watch it. Yeah. I'll go look at it
But it's what
myself.
she's saying. This is, it's the end of doing the West down.
Wow. Okay. That's very positive. All right. I gotta watch it. If you haven't watched it, watch it. All right. That's good. All right. Let's see what people have asked or what comments we've gotten today for Melanie while we're sitting here. What are we? Okay. Brian, I'm struggling to believe you read anything in the Washington Post and believed it at first blush. Ruth Lieberman, she's honest and direct. Love it. Yes, that is definitely a fabulous way of describing Melanie Phillips. Can I agree to that? Ivy Hyman was here. Ivy Hyman, as a teenager, Melanie Phillips inspired me to get involved in the media.
Oh, wow.
20 years later, I'm still fighting the good fight. Avi Hyman does PR, so he's in the media world for Israel. A lot of fabulous clients. Amazing feedback, Avi. Thank you so much for that. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching today. And if you have not signed up yet, definitely go to MelaniePhillips.com, sign up, get our newsletters, unbelievable articles, and you'll get everything that people were just talking about. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you again, Abby.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to speak to you.
Shalom, everybody.
Bye.